and welcome to Chai Chat with Loveena. जैसे अनेक रंगों से ज़िंदगी दिलचस्प और रंगीन बनती है, उसी तरह चाय चैट पर भी हम अलग अलग मुख्तलिफ मुद्दे उठाकर अपनी चैट को चाय पर रंगीन और दिलचस्प बनाने की कोशिश करते हैं। आज भी कुछ हटकर चाय चैट हम लेकर आए हैं और आज हम बात करेंगे दो विमेन ऑथर्स से। These two women authors are from completely different background but are of Indian origin and have written beautiful books that are being launched in London itself. So let's talk to each one of them separately. First going to Meera Sayal and then to Sangeeta Bahadur. Welcome to Chai Chat with yet another difference. What can I say? Who am I talking to? A writer, director, producer, journalist, wife, and the list goes on. But I guess I would say that I'm talking to a very, very talented, influential and powerful, intelligent woman who happens to be of Indian diaspora and has made it very, very famous within the British culture. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for asking me.
And I'm going to talk to her about her latest book called The House of Hidden Mothers. Very colourful and very interesting title.
Well, yes, it's about surrogacy,
Yeah.
which of course is a huge issue, current issue, but also of course India is the world centre for surrogacy. It's a multi-million-dollar industry, and it's about a British Indian woman who's in her late 40s, who already has a grown-up daughter, and she has a younger new white partner, and she's desperate for another child, so she ends up hiring an Indian surrogate called Mala. The British Indian woman's called Shama. So the book is about the relationship between the two women and how the power balance shifts between them due to unforeseen circumstances.
Yeah. So I think, Meera, you have picked up extremely interesting interesting set of characters coming from their backgrounds. So you have one woman set in Britain, one coming from India, and the whole issue of what happens in their heads about where they belong, adapting to new culture, going back to their own and yet not finding their roots. So how much is it based in your own experiences?
Well, I haven't actually hired a surrogate, but I think a lot of the issues which are about ageing and the fear of losing your fertility, that affects all women of many ages, I think. And also I'm very interested in how surrogacy is a sort of metaphor for the relationship between India and England. That how do you see it? Do you see surrogacy as a positive contribution to the cultural exchange, or do you think it's exploitation? Okay. People have very different views about it, but I hope through understanding the journey of the two women, you will see all aspects of it, from the surrogate's point of view as well as the woman who's hiring the surrogate.
Okay, I'll come back to this one issue later, but I want to say India as the surrogacy capital of the world, 4 to 4.5 billion if I'm not wrong. It's intriguing, and yet it's not that well known across the world.
No, you're quite right. I mean, the idea for this book came to me totally by chance. I was channel flicking and I came across a documentary and I saw this image of all these Indian women, heavily pregnant, obviously poor women, all sitting on their dormitory beds as if they were at a boarding school. And I thought, what is this? And then the director of the clinic came on, this very intelligent, attractive, obviously clever woman, who was talking about how surrogacy was a lifeline, because she said, I have the most brilliant job in the world. I make the dreams of infertile couples come true, but I also change the lives of very poor women who get an amount of money that literally enables them to leave their poverty. And I thought, wow, that's a really complex and interesting subject. And I had no idea that India was the world centre, because at that point the industry was deregulated.
Yes. Did you meet the real surrogate mothers and the whole, I think, complexity that would go within their head to be giving away their child?
I didn't meet any surrogates, but I did spend a lot of time with a couple who've had 2 children via Indian surrogates, and they were really helpful. Because actually the facts you can find out actually via the internet and various other sources. Yes. What you don't get is the emotional journey.
Yes.
And for that you need to talk to people that have been through it, and they were very helpful.
You've also explored this whole question of where do I belong?
I like to think we have the best of both worlds. I mean, what's interesting is that I think particularly now the issues that the middle classes have in India chime very much with our experiences over here. It might not have been that way 20 years ago, but India has changed so fast. I mean, breakneck speed, and suddenly there is this very literate, articulate, ambitious generation coming up. The 2 big issues for them are sexual violence and corruption. And you really feel with them there's a sea change. They are challenging a lot of the old traditions and ways of thinking and ways of doing things. And in a way, that has put them very much on a par with what we've had to fight here, over here. So I think now more than ever, we seem to have a lot in common with the middle classes in India. And we certainly feel that many of my generation feel very emotionally connected with India, even though we don't live there. A lot of us still have strong ties there. A lot of us still speak the language. We still watch the movies, and we try and continue the traditions that are useful for us. And the difficult bit is deciding what do you want to keep of the old ways and what do you want to throw away. Yes. And that we have done all our lives because we're immigrants. But that is also the process that the young generation are going through now in India.
Yes. How difficult have you found that process? Because I do sometimes get myself caught between what to give away, what to keep, and still find your identity between all of that.
Yes. I think you have to accept that we are forging a new identity. Culture is ever changing. It changes all the time, and it should. The balancing act is what traditions do you want to hold on to? And some of them are bad, you know, the way that women are treated, you know, forced marriage, honour killings, dowry bride burnings. These are not cultural traditions, these are abuses, and they've been continued in the name of tradition. And this is a really important distinction that people have been making. And I think the younger generation particularly are now thinking, I love being Indian, or I love being of Indian heritage, but this bit of it, that's nothing to do with tradition and culture.
But you, I think, belong to the generation in the UK who actually have forged or formed an opinion in the minds of the British through your Goodness Gracious Me or the Kumars at 42 about us, and made sure that there is a recognition there. Do you feel satisfied with that recognition? Is it given now to the community?
You know, we are a very successful community in many ways. I think, isn't it? I think Indians in Britain have the biggest concentration of millionaires than any other group or something. Although it is true. Although one shouldn't just, you know, measure success through money. I think our artistic and creative endeavours have been equally positive. So I think as a community we have fought really hard to hold on to our cultures, but we've also questioned the ones that don't enrich us anymore. And that's a really interesting process to go through, and I think that process makes you creative, actually. I think that is the reason that we have produced so many pioneers and entrepreneurs.
How would one measure that the women in India are their own person? Is there a measurement against something? Or do you think we're going?
I don't think one should measure oneself against the West, because the West hasn't got everything right. In fact, it's got a lot of things wrong that India has got right. I still think that the fact that spirituality is a large part of our daily lives, that our families are tight-knit units, are great things that a lot of cultures have lost, and I would hate to lose that. I think the fact that we have such a rich heritage in music and literature, and the history of our culture are all things we must fight to preserve it, but it doesn't mean that there can't be change within that. Because actually throughout our culture we've had many, many amazing role models, Rani Ki Jhansi and Sarojini Naidu and so many people. There are so many women we can point to and go, you know, these women were striving and achieving at a time when Western women possibly weren't. In a way we have to remind ourselves that Indian women originally were, you know, we had a matriarchal, powerful culture. Somewhere along the line that got turned upside down, and the dowry system has a lot to do with it. You know, if a girl costs money when she's born, how is she ever going to be treated as anything except a burden? So there are things that have come in to the culture that have subverted that, but I don't think we need to measure ourselves against the West. I think we need to be proud of our heritage, but look at bringing back the powerful woman to the centre of it.
Realising our own self and what we were.
What we were, absolutely. There's a reason, you know, there are goddesses on every building. You know, that's what we were originally. That somehow got subverted.
Absolutely. We have a history.
Yes.
We have a present. What do you think all this will make our future?
I don't know. It's interesting because my novel is set in 2012 when the industry wasn't regulated. However, I do understand there's a bill going through Parliament right now, it may even be in force, which is really going to change the rules. It's going to restrict surrogacy to heterosexual married couples now. And I think the industry will lose a lot of money because of that. And it's bringing in tighter regulation. So the industry itself is going to change, which may not be a bad thing if the women are protected more. I think while there are poor fertile women in India and there are wealthy infertile women in the West, I can't see an end to this industry. What I hope is that it will be more balanced and there will be more protection in place for the surrogates. But it won't end because there's too much demand.
What is your view on it?
I'm really even-handed about it. I hope when people read the book, by getting into Sharma's head, who's hired the surrogate, Mala's head, who is the surrogate, they will really see it from all points of view. Because I don't want to judge anybody who's been through the pain of infertility, who might hire a surrogate and it might change their lives for the better. But it is a very complex subject, and no doubt women are open to exploitation in it. So if it provokes debate, I'm very happy, because that's all you can do. You can provoke debate.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And being a journalist and have that very strong strand in you, I'm sure this book, you have done that with this book. So the House of Hidden Mothers, the new book of Meera Sayal, please go get a copy and do read, and probably that's a lot of thought for food as far as surrogacy and the relationship between the two countries are concerned.